Мир без границ. Это выражение куда более подходящее одному слову – искусство. А высшее искусство, проявленное и проведенное через тонкие миры духа, способно исцелять, наполнять и развивать наше сознание. Хочу познакомить вас с американским художником, который уже 40 лет занимается таким искусством. Он изображает миры вне нашей Земли и живущих там существ. Как он это делает и что чувствует при этом, мы узнаем лично у него.
Hello, Erial. I'm glad to see you.
Good to see you, Nataliia.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am well too. I was looking forward to an interview with you.
Yeah, me too.
And let's begin. We can start.
Okay.
And the first question. Remember, please, when you made contact with the higher dimensions, world of spirit, how did you understand it?
Well, I've always been in touch with my dreams, and since I was a child, and so I was used to, kind of having adventures, and but not until I started drawing them and started to compare my dreams to the world, to like TV shows or books, and then I began to figure out that my dreams had a context. My dreams were part of my cultures, actually the world cultures, like fairy tales or fantasy. And so once I started to paint and to draw them, then I began to understand more about what they were, to me. And also I started to make it a story. It was like a story to me. So I had a place, I had a context for what I was seeing, because I knew at some point that I was supposed to bring this back. And in order to understand it, I would need to draw and paint and then write about it too.
Please, can you tell about your experience in the development of consciousness, and is it intertwined with the development of creative abilities?
It doesn't have to be, but I think it usually is. Well, actually, I think it is, and most people maybe don't know, but the artists and poets and the different people in the creative arts, they begin to understand that what they're seeing, what they're describing is part of their consciousness. And so I figured out a long time ago that what I was doing was a certain level of my consciousness, a certain frequency or vibration. And so when I've had dreams, I mean, you can feel, most people can feel the kind of dream that you're having. Is it a higher vibration dream or is it a lower vibration dream? And some are very hard to deal with. And other ones are more angelic and celestial, the higher planes. So I found out that as I was doing it through the years, I found that I was kind of telling a story. I was telling a story of the evolution of my own consciousness. And then I realized that was the same story for everybody, really. That if it works for me, if it's the story of the evolution of my consciousness, it probably is the story of the evolution of other people's consciousness, maybe the world's consciousness. So now that's what I kind of go by. I figure that if it works for me in a certain way and it takes me to a certain level, then it will probably do that for other people.
Okay, let's look at one of your paintings in detail. Please choose a picture yourself and describe the whole process of its creation, from the concept, the process, and we'll read the result. We will display it on the screen for the audience.
So my favorite work in that way was called Utopia. This was my, probably about 20 years ago now. Was it that long? 15, 20 years ago, I started drawing this castle, like a castle in the sky. And I kept refining it over the years. And I called it Utopia. And so it became this theme throughout my life of this shining city, this sort of crystal temples and these starships would visit this place called Utopia. And it was a part of like my personal myth. Like I had a kind of mythology. And so it was like a metaphor for paradise, or a Shambhala, and these other kinds of higher level civilizations that they're cities of light. They're light temples, crystal cities. And so my favorites have to do with that image called Utopia. And I have some images of people that are walking up this pathway. And then you can see in these pictures that they're seeking this city. Sometimes I have one person going down the pathway. Sometimes I have a couple. And then one time I had three. I had a man, woman, and a child. They're walking up toward this amazing shining city. And in fact, I was thinking when I was studying where you were from, I couldn't see some of the buildings were a lot like in Russia. Some of the churches have these kind of rounded spires, and these columns, these domes with these colorful things. And it's a lot like what I'm doing, I think, sometimes. Yeah, it's also a metaphor for my journey as an artist. I'm heading towards something. And in my life, I feel like most people, you want to have a feeling that you're going somewhere, that you've been, you were born somewhere and you're heading towards something hopefully great, So it's kind of a metaphor for that. So I think it reminds me of a castle in Disneyland, the Disney castle. Princess and the king and the prince live,
I will ask the following question so that your pictures are even clear to our viewers, that they understand that this is reality, simply the highest. And you, as a person who sees these worlds and feels so socially, can depict a picture on canvas. Whom do you paint? Who and what dimensions are depicted in your paintings?
Well, as I was doing this, I was realizing that it was part of like a tradition. The world's cultures have different stories, fairy tales and mythologies of people on adventures and higher, going into higher states of being. There are lots of books out there. So I use the books and the things I would see online and read about as sort of comparing it to what I was doing. Although I thought of my stuff as kind of unique. And so I wanted to start naming what I was doing with my own personal kind of brand, my own style of what they were called, the beings. I think there's Arcturian influence, Pleiades influence, Lemuria and Mu, the old civilizations of the earth, you know. So it all kind of mixes together, but I don't usually use the same terms that a lot of people do, because I want to keep it kind of open-ended, so that people can, you know, think of things in a new way. So I don't necessarily use terms that people are used to. So I make them up, and I think they sound familiar to people. You know, if you look at the names of some of these that I do, but I also, you know, read comic books sometimes and graphic novels. And of course now TV and movies, there's a lot of fantastic, you know, sci-fi and fantasy things going on right now. So I think mine fits in there, and I hope to make more like movies and do virtual reality and take people more inside these worlds and these beings.
What literature, books, or any movies tell you more about the subtle kingdoms of the world of spirit? Do you use additional sources of information?
Probably when I first started, like I said, I was reading comic books and fantasy books. There was an artist, a French artist named Mobius, Jean Girard from France, right? And he did a lot of fantastic artwork, and so I knew I was on the right track when I was doing it, because he would be in movies and he would be have these books out, these graphic novels, and so and he had his own world too, and so that's what I liked about him, because he wasn't using the usual myths that were coming out of the old traditions, like Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, you know, things like that. But I knew it was in the same kind of place. It was in the similar kind of thing. So I used that to sort of ground what I do, so that I know I'm part of a tradition, you know. But also I have a lot inside me that I want to bring out, but it takes a certain kind of technique with a computer and my software to really get these images so people can really feel these beings, you know. But yeah, you know, they're part of the world, and yet they're not part of the world. I think they have a reality of their own. But like dreams, they're kind of etheric, you know. It's hard to say if they're real or if they're not real, because you know, I get them from dreams, and so they're not from anything that I see in the world, but they have such an effect on me that they're real to me, in a sense, you know. And part of what I wanted to do since I was a kid is take the invisible world that I saw in my dreams and my visions and make them visible, make them tangible for the world. And if you watch these movies, a lot of cartoons and animation, you know, you get a feeling for these other places and these other kinds of beings. And so you can tell stories and I try to tell good stories, stories that uplift you, stories that touch your spirit, because I feel like people are looking for direction, and these images, these stories, they make me feel good. They make me feel like I'm protected, that somehow there are these other beings, higher beings, that are helping to steer where the world culture goes. But it doesn't happen without us. We have to do the work, right?
Erial, do you consider yourself a special person?
I think that I like to think that I am. I like to think that you are. I like to think that my friends are, and my family. I think everybody has a special part of themselves, and I think it's up to each person to bring that out. To bring out the part of them that is special. Like everyone has their own kind of genius, but you have to find it in order to express it in the world. And people say, that I'm special, but I have issues, I have challenges, and with the world, problems sometimes, and so at those times I don't feel very special, but I feel that it's important to feel special, but not to act special. With other people, I try to treat everybody equally, and I try to treat them like they're special. Sometimes I don't always accomplish that, but I think if you feel like you're here for a reason, and you have a mission, I think you're special, because you came here to make life better, to do something that uplifts the world, that brings people together. So I think there's a special quality in the work that helps to raise your vibration and to make you feel better about your life, feel better about the world. But otherwise, I'm just like anybody else,
I like your answer so much.
Thank you.
How do you think, is it possible to be a highly spiritual person and at the same time not be interested in art at all?
Well, I think spirituality and religion and art are always together. There's always the expression of a spirituality or religion is always, somehow created by artists to show, the worlds that spiritual people can see in their mind's eye sometimes. You don't have to be interested in art, but it's like art was made for spirit. It's like if you look at the cathedrals, right, and the churches and the mosques, they're like the architectures of spiritual reality. You walk into these places and they're made so that you begin to feel yourself part of this larger reality. And so art helps you to see and to feel and to be a part of this other reality. So people, so yeah, I think you can be a part of different kinds of religions that have different kinds of images, but it's all about trying to show the different vibrations, the different colors, the different feelings that you get when you're involved in your spiritual life. And I think that spiritual life is everything in a way. You know, we divide it up into different things, but once we go to sleep, you know, we begin to enter these places that are part of another world of understanding. And so we've come to see that these other places, these other realms that we go into in different states of consciousness, we call them spiritual. And pretty much everybody dreams. Not everybody remembers their dream, but most people dream. And in those dreams, sometimes you can turn it into a spiritual experience. Not always, but you can. You know, you can do it.
Whose opinion about your artwork is important to you?
Well, I've been drawing since I was probably 3, 4 years old. And so it's just a part of me. It's like a part of my expression. It makes me feel good to do it because it's like I have something inside me that I want to express. And I need different ways of doing it. I do a little music sometimes. I play the flute. I like listening to music. But when I draw and when I paint and when I write about it, it makes me happy, you know? It makes me fulfilled. Like I'm here doing something and I'm doing it for the world too, not just for me. It becomes part of my personality, you know? I mean, I have to be a person too. And I think it's important for me to fit into society and to be a part of my culture at the time I live. But the work fulfills my need to be more, to be a part of something greater than myself, you know, a part of a tradition. You know, art goes back to the very beginning of expression. You know, talking is an art, writing, all these different things. They come from a place of creation inside of us. You know, we're here to create something, I think. I mean, that's our legacy that we leave to the world, is what we create for each other. It's kind of magical, right? Because you create something that wasn't there before. When you speak, the words weren't there before. Suddenly, you become a creator, and you are making reality by what you do, by what you say, and then what you do. You know, most people, I think, don't realize the power they have, because we feel like we're these robots. You know, we're born and we go in these certain directions. But once you realize that we're creating the world, I mean, the world is there because people have created it, and because it's there anyway in some form. But when we come into it, we can affect it. We can change it. We can create more things so that it's a better world because we were here.
There are many versions and theories about such a fact as time, its properties and qualities on our Earth. And I want to ask you about time. What is for you? Is it real? Explain for us.
It's interesting because a lot of times I think that my work is I when it works best, it feels like it's timeless, like it's coming from a place where there's no time. It's like these archetypal realms, these realms of myth. They're like in a place of timeless creation, and time is real with human beings in bodies. You know, we get up and we have to do certain things so that, you know, everybody pretty much throughout the world has the same kind of clock. And so there's something very real about time in that way. But the reason I think people feel like there may be no time is because in our mind, in our consciousness, in the imagination, it's like this timeless place. And so when you dream, sometimes the time stretches and condenses. I like how I disappear in here sometimes. I have a virtual background behind me. Well, I think that, you know, I'm an older person now. I'm 65 years old. And probably 5 years ago, I kept waking up and I kept hearing this voice say, "You're going to die. You're going to die." And so this message to me, at first I thought, oh no, do I have some disease or something? Do I have a heart problem? Or, but it was just my mind saying to me, you only have so much time. That we're time-bound creatures. We're born, we live our life. It's like a flower, it starts as a seed. It grows, it's beautiful, it's there, and then it begins to fade and die. And so I think it's important to understand and respect time because we only have so much of it. It's always running out in a way. But also, we live in this timeless place too. So I can understand why you would people say that there is no time. But beings are time. In a sense, we're time. You're time. I'm time. We're time-bound beings. Trees are time. If you cut them open, you can see the rings that show you how much time they've been here. So it's important to realize that because we only have so much. It's very precious. It's the most precious thing that we have. Besides people, our family, and our friends, But everybody goes away, and we go away. So it's important that we realize that, so we make every day count. And we make every day important enough that we were here, that it makes a difference for people. We want to make a difference. And if you don't use your life in a timely manner, then you can lose the opportunity to make that difference. So time is important that way. But then when you leave time, and then what's left are your some words that you wrote down, or your videos, or your artwork, or whatever it is, that becomes kind of a timeless thing, because you created something. In fact, I think that what we do, it's like an echo. It creates waves of energy. And so we're like vibrations that maybe keep going forever. Who knows?
Who knows? Yes.
Hard to say. It's hard to say.
What is real in our world and what is not? How do you think?
Well, I think that, when you start growing up and you stub your toe, or you get hurt, you begin to understand there are certain things that are solid, certain things that affect us in a very real way. And then we find out that we're made of these atoms that are very tiny, and there's a lot of space in people. We're not just these thick things, we actually are part of the universe, and we're kind of permeable membranes. We take in information and we give out information. And so what is real is what affects you, I guess. Physical, and what affects you in a mental way. So when someone says something and you feel it, what they said is real because you feel it. I think dreams are real. I think everything is relatively real depending on the context, depending on how you're viewing it. Because, but that can be a problem, philosophically. People can say, well, nothing is real until I say it is, or something, we have to trust other people for what's real too. We don't believe everything people say, but if we trust the people that are saying it, we can kind of get the idea that there's some reality going on. But reality is permeable. It's malleable. We can change it. And so you have to be careful what you say and what you think, because it's all a part of what you leave here on the planet and who we are. So it's all relatively real. You watch a television program and it's not real in one sense, but it is real in another sense. So it's a combination of both. Because we can believe different things with our senses that are true and some aren't true, but it's all relative to the observer, to who's seeing it. So I think of my dreams as real because I get to bring them back and to paint them and to draw them. So that's kind of how I feel. How about you? What do you think is real?
I have interest in dreams too, and I think it's real. I think real is love, is our love, is physical body our tool for time. Yeah. And about the physical body, I want to ask you, what sensations do you observe in your physical body when you pass through yourself the flows of energies from the higher dimensions?
It's usually very subtle, and it happens in dreams, mostly. And I'll just have this feeling of joy, feeling of feeling really good, of purpose, and there's a sense of a reality beyond me, this higher vibration, and so I get a sense of that I'm beyond just myself, that I have more inside me than I do at other times. It's not always like that, but whenever I'm painting and drawing, I get this sense I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So it's a feeling that I'm working on something that's important, and so it makes me feel good. Sometimes years ago when I was first getting into it, I was having stronger dreams and stronger visions, and it would be almost overwhelming. There'd be these high states of ecstasy when I would feel like, like ecstasy just feels like you're 3 times alive, 3 times more happy, more excited. And there's a sense that your body is being used for something. It's like there's this power coming through it, but mostly it's very subtle, feelings of good feelings of being on purpose, of being part of a larger thing, of a larger plan, you know. But I also get there. I eat really good foods, you know, vegetables and the right proteins, and my diet is very clean. I drink water, lots of water. I should drink.
Lots of water, yes. Every day.
Yeah, and I try to keep my consciousness clean. You know, my thinking patterns and how I how I view the world. It's important to me to have a vehicle that is healthy and can be receptive and be a vessel for spirit, be a vessel for information that wants to come through me at a higher level so that I can paint and draw and write about it and be very clear. It's important to me not just to do these things. I mean, you can do whatever you want. People can do whatever they want. But for me, I want to create certain vibrations in other people. I want to create effects. I want to have people feel differently about reality after they see my work. And that takes focus, that takes time, that takes the right kind of energy coming through me into the work to affect people, you know. So yeah, it's really important, all those things, to create this vibration in me that's very clean and clear, and you know, it's kind of a science, like the science of spirit, you know, the technology of the sacred. There are ways of conducting your life so you become like a symphony of artistic creation. And what you do is you build these ideas and these colorful places so that other people can walk into them and be a part of this other creation. And the closer I get, I feel, to creating the real thing, the thing that I see the most, the deepest levels, they seem to affect people that way, you know. And so I know that I'm on the right track because I get that reaction from people.
Can the modern people, a modern person, young people, in the age of computer technology now, and if they does not believe perhaps in the higher dimensions, alien beings, and in the supreme mind God, believe in fairy tales and miracles?
Yeah, well, I think that a lot of the media is very magical. I mean, it shows you, you know, from commercials to movies to videos, there's these fantastic scenes. There are, you know, it's very dreamlike. So people are seeing magic all the time. And so maybe in a way, they begin to get used to it, and they think of it as something that is only on the screen. But the whole point of what I'm doing and using the computer and getting into VR, virtual reality, is so that even the people who are most in the technology, most sort of left brain, they can have adventures, you know, with technology that bring them back to spirit, back to their heart, you know, because, and that's what I think is important about work that people do. You can tell how much heart there is in it, how much of a spiritual sense of purpose and goodness and higher thoughts, higher vibrations. And so I think that's the way it happens, is that AI, this artificial intelligence and robots and all this stuff, it's going to be okay as long as people have their heart in the right place and their spirits in the right place. And so that gets translated into our technology, but it starts, and you have to be away from technology enough to maintain your humanness, be a part of nature, hug trees, watch the grass grow, gather flowers, be a part of the natural world, so that when you come back to technology, you can feel the nature in the technology. And so and then they become entwined together. They become a part of each other, so then there's no separation. And that's a big theme right now. People are afraid the machines are going to take over, but if we bring our hearts and we love the machines, we put love into everything we make, then it should bring love back to us. But that's why people, we need to be able to contact each other and to send each other good feelings. And it's a little harder nowadays to do that, because it was kind of separated. But that's the big goal right now, is to use this technology to get closer together and to appreciate each other more and to love each other more. Because this is it. This is it,
It's our world and time today. It's a reality now. Erial, thank you for your sincerity, really. Thank you for interesting conversation. And I want to say that now I to have confirmation that the world without borders is real.
Yeah.
And I wish you creative success, harmony, and absolute love in your heart. It's very important. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nataliia. It was great to speak with you. You're so far away, but you're right next door.
Thank you, Erial.